Welcome to the demo for our newest lesson, Tables in HTML. What you're going to want to do is go to Google Classroom, click Classwork, and at the top of Resources, click CodePen, and then make a new CodePen. I already have the HTML skeleton laid out, so at this point, maybe pause the video, copy what I have here now before we move forward and do the full demo. So ideally now you unpause the video and you have all of this on your screen. Next, we want to add our new element table. That's the wrong thing. There we go. Yeah. Table. Add the closing tag as well. Now every new row you add, you have to add a TR. And a closing TR. So my first row is going to go in between this tag right here. So I'm going to add a TH and do something. I'll do name is what will make our table. Okay, we'll do this. We'll do name. So do TH name. Do TH birthday or grade, and another TH ID number. So now our table has 3 columns, 1 row. So now we need to add another new row. So another TR tag. Let me do this so you can see it. So I have one more TR tag and one more closing table row tag. I'm going to add a name. So let's say my name is John Smith. This should be a TD. Go back. That should be a TD. John Smith. The only THs should be your first row. And because we have 3 here, we also need 3 TDs here. So each one lines up with the other order. So if it goes 1, 2, 3, name, grade, ID number, in this row we have to go name, grade, ID number. So we'll do something like my grade, he's a sophomore. And his ID number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now we have a first row of our table. We have John Smith, who's a sophomore, and that's his ID number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. To save time, right, you know that every row is going to look like this for the most part. So highlight the first TR of your second row all the way to the closing tag. Click Control-C to copy it. Go to the next line and press Control-V to paste. Hit Enter again and do that twice so we have 3 rows. Then you can go in and change the name. So maybe we have an Alex Smith, who's a junior, whose ID is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or we have a Brian Jones, who's a senior. That's not the point though. The point is that you can see your table start to form. So what we can do now is add some attributes we learned about. So we learned about adding a table border. So attribute value combination is border equals. So in our opening table tag, let's add border equals 1. Now we have a border. Our table looks a bit more cleaner now. It's a bit more easily visual. We can see each row and column a little bit more clear when we add a table row. If we make the border 10, that increases the thickness. So the border looks like that now. And if we reduce the number, the border gets thinner. So now another attribute we learned was the width of the table. Remember, you can have more than one attribute per opening tag. So we can go copy this in this same tag we were just in. So we do style equals width, colon, 100%. That takes up the whole window. By default, table headers are center and bold, and table TDs are left. So before we get to column row span, I want to do align. So in a TR, you can align right or left, or in a TD, you can align right or left. So you can do that in any cell. So what I want to do is numbers are generally aligned to the right. So I'm going to go to each TD that has a number and do align equals right. Shifts it all the way to the right. So I'm just going to copy that and paste it in each of my TDs under ID number. So they're all aligned to the right. Now column row span can get a little bit tricky. So for the sake of this demo, I'm going to do something that might not make sense. So I'm going to add an ID number here and do col span equals 2. So I'm adding a new column. I'm going to allow it to span extra. So technically this is 1, 2, plus 2. So my table is going to have 4 columns now. So I'm going to do ID number slash lunch number. I don't know. They're the same, but for the sake of this, don't worry. So because this row now has 4 columns, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, I have to add a new column here. So I'm going to copy this whole thing. So I keep the align right. And I'm going to add random numbers because this is now their lunch number. Again, I'm going to paste a new one here because I want 4 columns in each row now. And paste a new number. And do the same thing for the last one. Type a new lunch number. So now ID and lunch number spans 2 columns, 1 column and 2 column, because that's indicating that this is the ID and the lunch number. That's not the most practical case of it. However, I wanted to show you that you can span more than 1 column. Row column is the same. It would just go vertical. I won't show you the example. The cases aren't often that you're going to use them, but when you use them, you don't want to mess it up. So be careful that your row count or column count always matches where you need them to match. That's all for the demo. Make sure you upload your screenshots of the Google Classroom assignment.